Okay, good morning, traders, and welcome to Trade the Structure. We're just coming into the start of the Asian session. We're going to do our usual morning wrap of the US action. Just take a look at exactly what happened. So it was another risk-off move in US equities. So Europe wasn't doing too bad. They were sort of meandering sideways up until the US Open, and then it was pretty much all guns blazing from bears. They come out firing, and the market moved straight down from there. And you'll see it on our market too. You can see this was sort of the open European session, popped up, had a lower high, and then bang, down we go. And that was around 12:30, and then at 1:30, which is when the Sydney time, when the US market opened. So a bit of a beating last night. Now, obviously, kick it off with what happened yesterday in Asian markets, and looking at the ASX 200, we look at the Hang Seng, the Japan index, which is the Nikkei. So you can see we actually found a bit of a base yesterday. This was about here. We opened up around in here and sort of drifted up. We pushed into this support, found some buyers, and then pushed back up again. So it could be a case of same sort of scenario. We flushed down. There's going to be a bit of fear in the market when it opens on the ASX, but most indices have actually pushed into a support or some sort of low, major low. So it'd be interesting to see. I wouldn't expect this to fall apart right on the open because we're going to open roughly down about 90 points on the ASX 200 on the underlying index. So once that opens at 10:15, it'll be interesting to see whether there's some more fear, which drive us lower, or this is going to be some sort of support where we, again, just drift higher again, squeeze out some of these sellers, spend all session squeezing them out. We may get to 71.50, and then come when the US opens, we roll over again. But we'll wait and see what happens and how the actual, excuse me, how the Asian markets open, okay, and how our index wants to trade. So either way, the pressure's on. The pressure's definitely on the index. This is more of a major move. You've got major leg down, big move up. Okay, we've got this double top. So if anything, I wouldn't be bearish looking for breaks or lows today for a big target. If you're going to put break of this area on the low, you're going to put your stop way up here, so a couple of 100 points away. But for now, I'll be biased down, just looking for those sort of lower highs to work into. Okay, Hang Seng. This is the 15-minute chart. You've got a bit of an expansionary leg down, and then pretty much we bounced from here, went sideways, spent all day, yesterday sort of chopping around just below this 23,722 area, and then obviously sold off. So this is, what time is that? It's about 1. So that's US Open there, bang, straight down. So all the move was done in the US session. Most traders, you can see the Asian markets, see yesterday, the last few days have been quite tentative during the day session. Our market's sort of drifting higher, and that drifting high is just squeezing out some short sellers before the US opens and head south. Okay, so whether we do that again today, we sort of drift higher, then we get tested into these levels, 23,423, before we get beaten down again, come into the US session. Okay, we'll have to take a look at the US just later on. Nikkei, same sort of thing you can see. So the Hang Seng was into this zone. I would expect it to potentially extend and then drift higher. I'm looking for, around this area, I'm looking for probably pop into 23,290 and then a lower high to hold, or a good move up and then a retest and rally, okay, and then potentially later on the second session or come into European markets for that market to roll over. But it is into, an area where you could go either way from here. Nikkei, same sort of thing. I would expect that to extend deeper, take out this low, because I think it's a prime area for stops to be targeted. All right, so they know the market's chasing stops left, right, and center. Algos love to drive the markets through levels. Just take out the stops and then rally straight back up. That's there's a lot of algos that would just work straight off that scenarios. So I would expect that to sort of take out that stops and then maybe something like this, a bit of a drift higher, because there's a lot of shorts built up that could easily get squeezed out. But I think longer term, that momentum's definitely down. Okay, and we're looking at we've got a longer term short on this just traded, which is it's got a nice wide stop. But for now, I would expect, maybe this leg to be put under pressure, a bit of a bounce back, and then later on we'll be looking to potentially sell into that US session again. Okay, but for now, you've got those scenarios, you get deeper flush at that level, take out the stops, and then we sort of drift back up again, or we could flush up 26,380, drag in some more buyers because it's off that level, drag in some more, and then start to squeeze them in, squeeze the buyers out off this level, off this zone, and then target these stops again, and maybe a continuation move down. Okay. Onto the US markets now, the Dow. So we've been talking to the Dow, just continuation of the trend down. You can see longer term trend down here. It just continues to push down. You've got lower highs holding that. It's sort of accelerated. So that's the longer term trend down, which would come into around that 34,000 mark. But it's holding lower highs and it's seen sharper sell-offs, okay, which we saw last night. We had that was just coming to the start of the US session. We had high lows holding, okay, so the market was just setting up, and I sent out a note to our Discord channel. We've got a couple of Discord channels working now, but a note to just be wary that we're going to get suckered in. Longs don't get suckered in off this level. You can see a good flush. So that was looking okay for, long. I could understand why you're taking it. There's no confirmation off this chart anyway to go long. You didn't get a higher low, potentially way back here, and that was, coming to the start of the European session. Popped up, down again. Okay, so it was just getting a setup, dragging in some buyers, through European trade, Asian and through European trade, and then we settled into nice little lower high to work into, but it's plowed through that 33,195. Hasn't really pulled up yet. I'm anticipating it's going to target 33,005. Take out some stops there, and then maybe work its way back up. Okay, so it may be Asian market session, we plow into that, and then we start working our way back up into the European Open and through Europe as they get buoyed. So the FTSE's actually done okay considering, and the DAX has actually done okay considering the US sell-off for 2 sessions now. A couple of sessions really finding some weakness. So it may be a case if we do drift high again and then back into this level and then sell off from there. But we'll wait and see closer to the US Open. All right, that's the US tech getting hammered. Okay, so there's 2 scenarios with this one. I would think obviously you've got the concerns with Ukraine. State of emergency has been declared there. I don't know if I mentioned that before, but state of emergency, looking for a bigger invasion from Russia. So that's the concern now. Okay, Russia just sitting in there. They put the tanks in, ready to go. It's just whether Putin is can he continue to lose the plot or not, and want to take on the world. But we'll see how that goes. There's sanctions, so that's one step. Sanctions, who knows what's the next step if they do, if they do actually follow through and invade. All right, so these are the levels, so that's obviously under pressure because of that, Ukraine, and obviously they're looking at rate rises. So rate rising cycles are putting pressure on anyway, let alone it may have just sped things up, sped up the sell-off because of what's happening with Ukraine, because tech shares are well and truly overcooked. So yeah, that was what we're looking at last night. Bit of a flush pullback and then selling to that, but it had big flush, another pullback, lower high, and just extended on those losses. So you've got this level here at 13,760. It didn't take much to get through that. Didn't really find any buying to really put pressure up into this level at 14,150, which I thought it may have come into the US Open, pressured up into there, but it just shows the lack of buying into tech at the moment. They weren't interested in buying the NASDAQ at all. Okay, the market was trying to chop, just essentially going sideways. All buyers here squeezed out and a big, strong move down. So that the fact that we didn't pull up here like I thought, bounce off this zone, somewhere around, say, 13,900, thereabouts. The fact that we didn't bounce off there just shows the strength in selling, okay? And it really accelerated to the downside. So I would expect we're going to target 13,370 before buyers are willing to step in at all. The DAX, let me just get rid of a few things here. Should have cleaned that up prior. So we've got the DAX has, again, it's been hit down. We're on a 15-minute chart here. So the first few, we're just going down to the 15-minute chart. You've got the market, did quite nicely. Okay, this is sort of the drive higher. It started to head lower around that US Open. So this was the open of the European markets. We drifted up, flushed into that 14,880 zone through here. You can see flushed into there, then held lower high. So prime entry short, prime entry short, prime entry short, all the way down. Okay, so I would expect that to drive into that 14,440 mark. Okay, just to see, to flush out more bulls. But that action there is not, is not what you want to see if you're bullish the market. Okay, because now you really, if you want to get bullish the market, you've got to be looking for a base. You've got to be looking for a base to build it. A base is not going to be built, tonight or over the Asian market session. It needs to flush, start to hold, and hold a key higher low. All right, we don't want to just see this little thing like that. You want to see a major high low, maybe something up here, major, something like that. Okay, it needs to prove itself. Maybe flush, retest that area, and then start to drift higher. Okay, then you could potentially, you'd want to be looking to get long, but off this sort of movement, strong movement down, you don't want to be jumping in long here because it could easily just go bang straight back down again, fall on top of you. Right, that's the action there. UK 100 again, didn't clean this up. I should have cleaned this up a bit earlier. Sorry about that. So that was the action we're looking for. We're looking for that zone through there to hold. It did. It pushed up through. Got a bit out of hand on the upside. It pushed up through there, retested at these higher levels, which you can see just in here. And then, look, it held up okay. It did most of the work. It pushed up from the open, and this was around the open. Okay, that's 6 o'clock open, 7 o'clock Sydney time. The indexes open. The indice opens, pushes higher from there. Higher low, retest fail, RTF we call it, double top, minor double top, and then it faded through the US session. So that was pretty much the start of the US session, this first red candle, okay? And then we flushed straight down again. So it is bearish, but if you could look at the index alone, it was only down, actually it was up a few points, and the night before it was up a few points. So it's kind of holding up okay, I would say. That action itself doesn't look too crash hot. You can see lower highs holding, that kind of action there is holding down. But this big flush down, it's probably not ready to go just yet. Maybe it's just waiting for that US to hold up or to find a bit of a base. But if we start to get some action from here, a bit of a pop up prior to the European markets open, I'll be looking for something like that. Okay, a lower high off this zone through here. Because I think there's a lot of pressure around at the moment. The two factors have been Ukraine, the unknown, whether there's going to be a full-scale invasion there or whether it's just going to be more of the same. But either way, it's an unknown at the moment when the markets are staring in the face of a rate rise cycle. Over to the currencies. Let me just see what the US dollar did today. Let's get that over there. US dollar, I think, actually drifted higher. Let me just confirm that. Just be 1 minute there. So US dollar, yeah, it pushed higher. So we're sort of back towards that 96 area here. You can see just in here, we're back to sort of that 96 area where it's chopped around and failed off there before. So maybe it fails off there again. We'll see. But for now, that US dollar was heading higher as a bit of a safe haven bid. It's finding more and more of a safe haven bid. Now, if it actually holds a higher low, I would expect it to ramp up and through 96 quite strongly. Okay, if it does fade off that 96 area we just mentioned. So Aussie, you can see plowed up, and that was at the start of the US session, straight back down again. So that is when we started to drift lower on the US dollar. Okay, but either way, that move up, I would say, is a bit unusual. Okay, that was probably just because we had some decent strength. Let me just see that US dollar again. This is a 30-minute chart. Let's just look at the 15-minute to get the same bearings. So good move up. Yeah, look, that's US dollar stood its ground. So it's a bit unusual that the Aussies, it's flushed up. I think it was just chasing some stops out. He's trying to squeeze out some buyers. Squeeze out some sellers through here. It's getting a bit antsy. Now it's coming off a key level now. I wouldn't be looking to buy or sell just here at the moment. I mean, you could buy it here and you get continuation up and then fails at a lower high. So for now, I find that reaction, the way it pushed up when the US dollar was sort of drifting higher as well, it caught up with itself. As then you can see, it really charged higher. And that was through European session, charged higher and then smacked straight back down again. I think there was more on the fact that we're talking up interest rates as well. So the Aussie dollar itself is finding some buyers from the RBA talking up interest rates, potentially a lot quicker than what a lot of markets or what they said in the past. So if anyone that doesn't know, the RBA were talking up interest rates a couple of years down the track, and they flipped pretty quickly. Couldn't put it off anymore, and a lot of analysts were seeing interest rate rises from the RBA a lot sooner than that. The RBA wasn't saying that though, so they changed their tune pretty quickly once inflation stuck around, and they brought it forward a couple of years. So for me, that's just I find that stupid for the RBA. You've got economists running the RBA. Why are they talking up rates 2 years down the track when every other analyst was talking about them maybe this year, start of next year, and then they flipped? Okay, so it's obviously they don't want to spook the housing market in Australia, which is you can't deny that if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Okay, But for me, what I'm looking at this move, you may have a bit of a squeeze on these shorts. I'll be looking for a higher low back above the MAs if I want to see any sort of buying opportunity, maybe pop, hold these MAs and then a squeeze, or we just continue to drift lower. Okay, so that's all I'm really looking at the Aussie. I don't really want to trade it until I see something to work off. I'm not seeing that at the moment. We're sort of drifting back into 72.15 area. The euro. So the euro had that bit of a run higher. We got this pop higher. That was the start. This was sort of the European session, and then once the US session kicked off, faded. Okay, you got a safe haven bid. The safe haven bid held. I think the market was sort of holding up. The US dollar was rallying, but they were buying into the euro, expecting the US dollar to sell off, but it didn't happen. Okay, that safe haven bid into the US dollar continued, and then we got this press down in the euro. So really, maybe looking back into that 1280 area, maybe looking for it to hold. Maybe looking for the hold into here, but either way, I'm not looking for. You can see how it's held the MAs on the way down. It's starting to look like it's buoying, but don't forget this could easily. We can see a pop and then a drop later on. Okay, so really, I want to see either a big flush. I want to see a flush at this level, flush down, and then start to ramp back up and hold for a rally. And you're going to see that it's going to come into the European session rather, and maybe the US session later on. But you see something like this. You know, this yesterday we're looking for a bit of a buying action. It did play out that way, but not before we get flushed around and chopped around quite a lot. And that was right at the start of the European session. So maybe we have to wait until the European session to get a clearer direction on the euro. Pound just belted down there, obviously along with that US dollar rally. So it's a 15-minute chart. Let's just get rid of that. Down into a zone through here, you can see it's got a zone. Whether it's going to, I don't think much happens in the Asian market sessions with the currencies. They're all just sitting around waiting. It's all focused on that US dollar and interest rate rises. So whether we can find a buy off this, opportunity to squeeze out some of those shorts, and wouldn't be surprised if that happens. We squeeze out some of those shorts into the start of the European session and US session. A good opportunity to do that, but I'll be having to work off that higher low, and I want to see the market press up above those MAs first. Okay, US yen. Now, I would have thought that had been a bit heavier. Obviously, with the buying into the US dollar, it's getting offset with that yen safe haven buying again. So, you can see how it's failed. I thought it might have got up a bit higher. You can see it was marked up yesterday, a bit higher into this zone up here, 115.288. For me now, that's looking to hold a lower high. So I'd be, maybe structuring a trade, something like that. Break the lows. Let's just make that a different color, make it a bit prettier. Structuring maybe a trade like that. Get rid of that. Short down below. I want to see that extend through there. High up, break up the top side is your stop level. So that's how you sort of like try to box it up. Sell the bottom side, buy the top side if you're looking for a short, and vice versa. If you want to buy the top side, go for it. Buy the breakout to the top side, your risk is below, as long as this level holds. Or you can look at something a bit wider like that. Break down here, break through here, you're short, as long as this level holds and your risk is above that area. Okay, so that's fine with me. It looks not too bad. You can see move down, tried to go up, bulls are trying to push, and it just kept fading. Fading here, just flush, drop. Bit of a stronger rally up, flush, drop. Okay, now this looks like a potential lower high. It's going to pressure all these buyers through here, and there's quite a few buyers through this zone in there. Gold yesterday, I think I was talking up a bit of a sell down to that 1886 area. It nearly got there, but either way, it was a good little, talking up a scalp. I put this message into Discord just as a scalp. I didn't really want to look for that to completely break down because there's still quite a bit of fear, and there'd be some safe haven buying into gold as well. As soon as the US kicked off, and that was pretty much what happened. The gold was trading around. It was just coming into the US session around here, this zone through here, and held up nicely, took off. Then you got, I think this was the open US session, 130. It kicked off straight into that 1910 area. So if I want to see the way it's just popped here, these couple of green candles, I don't want to buy it yet. I want to see some major consolidation sideways, and then maybe a higher low to work off before I expect there's going to be a break up through 1910, through 1915, and break through these highs, these previous highs in here. Otherwise, I think it's going to drift lower again. Okay, we've tried to get up there prior, trying again, maybe, really no pullback here. If this starts to fade and get through that zone in there, you're looking for a lower high and maybe a squeeze back down to 1886 again. Okay, over to some of these crude. Crude, they always, every news article you see, crude's rallying again. It does, it rallies, but then it drops. Okay, so we're spiking up but dropping. So there's a clear level up here where you would expect any sort of rally to be met with some selling up to this zone here. And that was just after the US Open, got smacked back down again. So yeah, we'll just keep an eye on that one, whether it can hold through here, whether we sort of get this level through, was it 92.30? And it was a rollover of the contract as well. So a lot of this move could be rolling from March to April contract on the futures market, is why you're getting these moves, and the CFDs will roll over as well. So all of a sudden you've got these differences in prices which create this kind of action, a bit of a spike. So whether we hold in here, hold this lower high at 92.37, we roll down and get back through 91.50, back through these lows, or whether we just start to drift away back up, we'll wait and see. But either way, I think as long as this Ukrainian-Russia issue continues and there's the threat of that a full-scale invasion, crude's going to be supported. All right, and OPEC's going to love it. They're going to love it. Russia's going to love it too. And don't be surprised if that's why they're doing it all, creating that havoc, creating higher prices for Russia as well. So they're quite happy to stand their ground. Watch see if crude can get a bit of a kick on up to $100 and above. Now copper, you can see fell apart. Obviously, you get any sort of US dollar buying and pressuring copper lower. And we've spoken about these levels quite a few times now. We've got some inside level here where it's faded at, pressed down, rallied back up, and that was the start of the US. Well, that was actually European session. It started to fade a lot earlier, and then we got a bit of a hit later in US Open, straight back down again. Okay, and that was all got to do with really that US dollar grinding higher through Europe and US session, that safe haven bid into the US dollar. So we'll see. This to me looks like it's easily got the potential to roll over. Okay, maybe we see a bit of we could just flush straight through and continue down, maybe into these levels through here, or whether we sort of bit of a bounce before we find some pressure. But to me, it's looking like it's set to roll over. Okay, if you're long through here and you've been holding, sooner or later that pressure is going to mount and it's going to force you out of the market. Okay, Bitcoin sold off with the US equities. It's sort of no man's land for me. I wouldn't mind, seeing some sort of lower high. I don't want to be selling off this. I think it's going to extend into 36,380, really put the pressure on, but there's no way around it. Bitcoin's under pressure. Found some pressure at that 38,850 area, straight back down. Lower high, that could easily take us through 36,380 and down to 33,100 in the longer term. Okay, now Ethereum, it's got this zone here, 25.90 we spoke about yesterday. It's flushing into that area. So the way the action, it looks like we could get some buyers creeping in. Whether we get a big move up back to 27.48 or we get a bit of a drift higher, come to US session and gets knocked down again, we'll wait and see. But for now, I'll be looking for the shorter time frames to see if we can hold up off that 25.90. All right, better finish it up there. Got a bit out of hand, a bit longer today. Thank you very much for joining me, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. And remember to leave us a like on the YouTube channel if you find us in there, if you watch us through that. Otherwise, enjoy your day and good luck today and just stay safe. Cheers, guys. Bye.